Hello everyone, my name is Zach Barnett, and today I'm going to be talking about the importance of voting in America. Alright, according to an article done by massvote.org, the importance of voting can be defined by different reasons. One of the reasons is that it is one of your own undeniable rights as an American. As an American, you should be able to exercise your right by voting, and it is one of the most undeniable rights that we have. Of course, you have freedom of speech and freedom of religion, but those are not as much as voting is, because anyone can stop you from talking, even though it is illegal, but no one can prove it as much as if you are denied of voting. Another reason is that a functioning democracy is critical to our nonprofit goals and civic missions. And by that I mean that if everyone was to stop voting and exercising their right by voting, we would not be able to pass bills as easily as we would need, such as Medicare, Medicaid, the GI Bill, just etc., etc. And we need to vote to get those bills passed, such also like gay marriage and gun laws. So voting is very influential in those categories. Another reason is that it matters to the health of the American political system. And so by that I mean that if everyone was to stop voting all of a sudden, it would be just total anarchy where no one could say what they believe, in a way. Okay. So another article I used was a top 10 site, and there's different presidential races that were very close by voting, and that is why it is very important that you vote, because even though you're one person in a country of 200 and some odd million, it is very important that you vote. It may not seem like it, but it is very important. And one of the cases is the George Bush and Al Gore presidential race in 2000. Al Gore won the popular vote, but he ended up losing the race to George Bush because of he didn't get the majority of the states. And that's another reason why it is very important, because if Al Gore had won more votes in Florida, he would have won the race, and that's another reason why it's very important. According to this one website, KQED, as the initials of it, in 1776, voting was only given to white men over the age of 21 and who owned land. And it's just insane how very few people were allowed to vote back then, and then up until now, everyone is allowed to vote. There's no one that is not allowed to, besides for the people who are under the age of 18 and non-citizens, of course. And the article continued to talk about how in 1868 blacks were granted citizenship and therefore given the right to vote, but only men. And then according to an article done by the History Channel, in 1890, a National Women's Suffrage Association was created by Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who organized rallies and protests to get women's rights into the talk for voting, because up until 1920 they were not allowed to vote. And so by creating this, she created a lot of pressure on the national government to give them that right. And then according to another article done by USFCA. The 24th Amendment, which I talked about earlier, was passed in 1920, and it gave women over the age of 21 the right to vote. And then in 1964, poll taxes became illegal. Up until then, there were poll taxes on voting. That was to increase money, but it was also, in some states, created to stop African Americans from voting because they weren't as well off, or they weren't as rich as some people, and so they couldn't afford it. And then in 1965, Voting Rights Act was passed, which handed voting registration over to the federal government, meaning that it was easier for African Americans to vote. And then in 1971, the voting age was lowered to 18. And so, as the history of voting, and that's another reason why I think everyone should vote, is because there's no reason why you shouldn't. And voting polls are everywhere across the country. You can go to local areas, and it's just one of the most influential things that you can do in your life, and it's very easy to do. So that is why I think you should vote. Thank you.